Happy Friday, Notre Dame fans. This is Mike Singer and Tim Hyde from Blue and Gold giving you our final thoughts, observations, and prediction before Notre Dame heads to whatever they call the Carrier Dome these days. It's definitely the Carrier Dome. Yeah, we're going to talk about Notre Dame, Syracuse, 12 p.m. Eastern Time, and you can find the game on Peacock. I am joking. It's on ABC. You guys only have to go through that once a season. So Tim's going to give us his 3 keys to the game. Folks, of course, do hit the thumbs up on this video and subscribe to our YouTube channel for more Notre Dame football and recruiting content. But yes, key number 1, red zone play. And Tim, it's on both sides of the ball.
Yeah, mainly defense. Seeing the stats that came out this week, after you got a good chunk of season and whatnot, and the craziest stat of this 4-3 football team is red zone defense. There's 131 teams that play Division I football in the country. Notre Dame is ranked 130th, Mike, and everyone watching out there. Only Rutgers has a worse touchdown percentage in the red zone than Notre Dame. So Notre Dame and Rutgers are battling right now for that 130th spot, and touchdowns, scoring points, which is just wild when you think about it, because Notre Dame is, I think, 35th in scoring, or 35th in total D, 30th in scoring D. They're playing solid D. Not one team has scored above their average this year, holding everyone down yet. Well, as soon as you cross the 20, you're guaranteed points this year, which is just a baffling statistic. And that just really jumped out to, we could talk, we've talked about a million things this year, but when you're 4-3, I think it's everything, the whole entire team over the course of 60 minutes. And the defensive red zone is a glaring one. And then Syracuse, 15th in red zone defense, and Notre Dame is in the 80s, I think 84th, if I remember right. So you can see how that is flipped so hard there with Syracuse defense compared to Notre Dame scoring D. So Notre Dame has been great from the 1 to the 20 or the 21, and once you cross that 20, it's been bad. So Notre Dame really needs to do that. Force some field goals, get a turnover, right? And the other thing, turnover margin, they're at the bottom of creating turnovers as well this year. I think dead last, if I remember right, in creating a turnover this year. So a couple red marks out there, Mike. Yeah, seriously.
All right, key number 2, Notre Dame's offensive line versus that Syracuse defensive line. Like, how good is the Orangemen's defense?
Well, it's the total D, and that's the way I look at it. And, when I say Notre Dame offensive line, it's not so much the D line, it's really that entire D, because Notre Dame has to run the football. They have to run the football. Syracuse is 13 in total D. They're 6th in scoring D. They're not giving up a lot of points. They're really physical, fast. I remember old colleague Ashton Poller, kudos to her, who wrote a bunch about Syracuse. I remember in the summer, talking about their front, especially their linebacker core. But the biggie, when I say they have to run the ball, Notre Dame, is I've busted out that stat, the statistics the last 5-6 years, when Notre Dame hits that 40 rushes in big games, Notre Dame wins the ball game. So if they could run the ball, control the clock, because passing wise, Mike, Syracuse is in the top 20 in pass efficiency defense. They're very good out there. I know they have a few injuries out there. We'll see if those guys are back this week, but Notre Dame needs to run the ball, take the pressure off of Drew Pine so he doesn't have to sling that thing 30 plus times in this game to win.
That's a key for Notre Dame every single week.
Oh, yes.
Key number 3, Notre Dame versus the ACC. What stat do you have for us this week, Tim?
This is the biggie. I mean, you got Notre Dame has won 25 straight games, Mike. 25 straight games against the ACC in the regular season, not counting the championship game to Clemson there, but 25 straight games in the regular season. The last loss was that meltdown in South Beach in 2017, in the top 10 battle against Miami. They've won 12 straight on the road as well since that Miami game. That's a huge number. So, they've kind of owned the ACC. I'm going back to Mac Brown. Mac Brown talked about this when they played this week. Like, hey, Notre Dame owns this conference lately. Everyone's trying to reach Notre Dame the last, few years. They beat obviously Clemson in 2020 in that game and whatnot. So that was an interesting quote from Mac Brown. So Notre Dame has controlled the ACC. They haven't lost a home game since the horrible 16 season when they lost to Va Tech at the end of the year. So they have a road game a home game coming up here, back-to-back weeks against two ranked teams. Does this streak keep going against the ACC? Their streak against unranked teams ended against Marshall. That was the longest in the country. So what does Notre Dame do against this ACC one is going to be quite interesting.
So Syracuse has been outstanding against the spread this year. Is where we're going to get into our little odd shark and get into the betting numbers and all that. They're 6-1 overall record. They're also 6-1 against the spread. So that means, maybe in I don't know what the Clemson line was, but let's say it was, Clemson was supposed to win by 10 points. Sure. Syracuse would have won that game against the spread, only losing by 6, for example. So I don't know which game they lost against the spread, but 6-1, Notre Dame's 3-4. Of course, that is not as nearly as important as your real record when Notre Dame's 4-3, and Syracuse coincidentally is also 6-1. Odd Shark has Notre Dame in their predicted score algorithm winning 35-21. You can also see the spread consensus here. 83% of the public is going with Syracuse. Syracuse is a 2.5-point favorite. Several days ago, Notre Dame was a slight favorite, and that line has shifted heavy towards Clemson, and then the over-under is at 48 points. Tim, I am going Notre Dame 30, Syracuse 28. I've got the Irish. Notre Dame's got the better players, and they play better on the road this year for whatever reason. I think the Irish are going to go in there, and they're going to win. What say you, Mr. Hyde?
Interesting. I will agree they have the better football players. When you're going 1 through 85, I'll completely agree with that. But I'm going to go the opposite, and the reasonings I'm going the opposite. You're going on the road. You're playing a ranked team. Very hostile environment. Coach Baber's up there at Syracuse. I mean, he was just jumping out the joy getting ready to play Notre Dame. I know he's super excited. He talked about how he's lost many times over the years as an assistant, a head coach. He's only beaten them once. And that was when Bob Davie took his team down there in 2001 and got beat up in College Station against A&M. But 3 things that really stuck out to me, when I started looking at this game is who has the better quarterback? I'm going to go Syracuse. Who has the better head football coach? I'm going to go Syracuse. Experience. He's been in these games. I mean, he was on the ultimate hot seat this year, and look what he has turned this Syracuse team around. Number one reason, he went out and got Virginia's offensive coordinator after Bronco Mendenhall left. He got Robert Anae, who's a longtime BYU football coach, to come up there since Bronco Mendenhall retired. And then the biggie, as I've mentioned, is home field advantage. A noon kickoff. The Dome is going to be rocking. Mike talked about it last night. That place gets wild, loud. He was on that 2003 team, that went up there and lost. And those are my big 3 keys. And I'm just going to go at the end of the day. I'm going to have it a field goal football game. I think Syracuse is going to win this football game 23-20 at the end of the day.
The better head coach, better quarterback thing, that would have lined up with North Carolina, BYU, and Stanford. And Notre Dame won 2 out of those 3 and really should have beaten Stanford going away. Notre Dame plays better on the road. I'm going Irish win. We'll see.
I'll take it, but there's just something about this Carrier Dome, something about that just really is just constant. And this Notre Dame team at 4-3, a pass here, a pass there. They're 6-1, top 10. I get all that, but they're not. That you are who you are at the end of the day. This is an up and down team. Red zone issues. Can the quarterback Drew Pine's been 50% the last 2 weeks? Is that a true Drew Pine, or is it the 75% the previous 3 weeks? Somewhere lies in the middle. But if Pine goes out there and he's 65% this week, he splits the difference. Notre Dame will win if Drew Pine is completing 65% and above passes this week. I'll take that to the bank for Drew Pine.
Folks, hit that thumbs up. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. Head over to blueandgold.com for all the pregame coverage as well as postgame. And Tim and I will be live on YouTube about 5 p.m. Eastern time or so after the game. So appreciate y'all for watching. And as always, we'll catch you next time.